All right. Well, now, Halitics, I'm Hal Ginsberg. So glad to be talking today. It is a Wednesday. Yeah, hump day. That's always a good day. I always say that. I wasn't even realizing it was Wednesday until they said, oh, it's Wednesday. So hope all is well in your world. I did enjoy the program I did yesterday with Arlen. I always appreciate Arlen very, very much coming on and sharing his views. And I think it kind of adds a little free zone, a little excitement to the program because he and I don't really see eye to eye in terms of strategy. He's definitely I would not say an any blue will do guy whatsoever, but he does see, I think, a road to recovery for our nation, a way to get back to a better place and to move forward through the Democratic Party. And I am pretty much, I won't say completely hopeless that could help, or completely beyond beyond any belief in the redemption of the Democratic Party, but I'm far, far more pessimistic about that institution, the Democrats, and the members of it. So that's where we disagree. I'd love to hear where you come down on this. 240-242-5646, 240-242-5646. A lot of talk today, as I so often do, the Middle East, the situation there, obviously the news, and I think it is exciting, the UN Security Council approving 13 yay, 0 nay, 2 abstentions, the Trump plan as it's being described for Gaza. And on balance, I don't want to say I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't want to say that. I can understand why the UN agreed to this. I think it was probably the right decision by the members of the Security Council, the permanent members, as well as the rotating members. I understand Somalia is a member right now of the Security Council, and they did vote, and I believe that's a Muslim country, did vote in favor of the Trump plan. So, we call it the question today is this a solution or the final solution? In other words, what Israel would want, it would certainly appear, certainly they're hardliners, a complete end to the people of Gaza, as they see it, right? The occupation of Gaza by Gazans, by Palestinians. Israel wants to take over completely that region and occupy it, and I guess transform it into part of what we would call Greater Israel. And the reason I say that is just by the statements, at least by the far right ministers Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, and also by the actions of Netanyahu. The settlements on the West Bank certainly indicate a desire to incorporate those regions into Greater Israel, not as Muslim enclaves with civil rights, with political rights for the residents, for the people who live there, but as land open for settlement by Jews, by Israelis. So, as they see it as Israelis. So that's would be the worst outcome, of course, of all. And given that apparently what Israel wants, I can get why the nations in the Security Council did vote for it, even those that aren't enthralled to the United States and Israel. And I can understand why Russia and China did not vote yay, but they also didn't vote nay. What we have our latest news here, still really, bad, and we're going to talk about why in light of this. Even so, Israel probably should be in a position, I mean, I hate to say it, I don't want them to be, but, at this point, the alternative was endless war, and genocide, not even endless, just genocide until Gaza is taken over by Israel. And as bad as Israel is right now, and even though Israel would apparently have an ongoing role in the governance of Gaza, it appears that role will be somewhat limited and somewhat under the control of Arab countries, maybe of the Palestinian Authority, and maybe the United States will hold back Israel a little bit. And for those reasons, and we'll go into it in greater detail. I think this was the right decision by the UN. Not an ideal solution, not what I would have wanted, not what I would have done if I were president, but obviously that's not the case. So you can see here, Israeli settlers fence off more land in northern Jordan now. 7 deaths recorded in Gaza in the last 48 hours. So at least, I guess, it's sort of progress. They're measuring deaths not by 24-hour days, but now by 2 days, 48 hours, 7 deaths. That's a greatly reduced death count from where it was previously during the ongoing assaults, the endless, ceaseless bombing and occupation by Israel, which led to, I'm not sure what the average was, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20. It was a little over 2 years. 2 years. So we can figure it out. 730 days, 365 times 2, 730 days, approximately 2 full years, and close to 70,000 dead. So you're looking at 80, 90, 100 dead every day. Now it's down to 3, 4 a day. A little more than that since the ceasefire. I guess that's progress. 240-242-5646. Of course, I have great respect for Code Pink and for Medea Benjamin, who is such a leader in the peace movement, friend of the show. I've definitely done a lot of work with Code Pink as a volunteer. I haven't been doing it as much recently, just been focused more on doing the podcast here, the live stream, and various other reasons. But anything that Medea says is always worth listening to. Let's hear what she has to say. She has a very, very negative view of this deal.
Today is a day of shame for the United Nations and the rule of law, as the UN Security Council just adopted a horrific U.S. written resolution on Gaza. 13 voted yes, 2 abstentions, Russia and China, but not a single country had the courage to stand up to the U.S. and vote no. This resolution has been rejected by Palestinian civil society, by Hamas, other Palestinian factions, and by defenders of human rights everywhere. It's nothing more than a colonial blueprint. It's the internationalization of the Israeli occupation. It pretends to be humanitarian, but it's really a plan to entrench occupation under a new name. The resolution imposes a 2-year foreign mandate with international forces to, quote, secure borders, protect civilians, and decommission weapons, all euphemisms for forcing Palestinians to disarm while doing nothing to end the root causes of violence: Israel's siege, military rule, ethnic cleansing. And who is going to oversee this project? A so-called Board of Peace chaired by Donald Trump, the same U.S. president that armed, funded, and shielded Israel as it killed and displaced hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. The proposal to install a technocratic Palestinian administration selected and overseen by Washington will merely be a puppet authority that will manage the open-air prison Israel built and the U.S. helped maintain. And who will make up this stabilization force? What countries will provide the forces? Well, Israel has already shown that it will be the one to determine, because it has just rejected participation from Turkey. And the talk about a 2-state solution, it's just cruel jargon. There is nothing in this resolution that shows a pathway to self-determination for the Palestinians. Real peace begins with a true ceasefire, one where Israel actually stops killing Palestinians, a full withdrawal of all Israeli forces and an end to the siege, unrestricted humanitarian aid, and reconstruction led by Palestinians themselves. Not a stabilization force from the outside, but a protection force, and true Palestinian self-governance. This resolution may have passed, but the struggle for Palestinian liberation continues. Free Palestine.
All right, so really good stuff there by Medea, very powerful, and I totally understand why she's so skeptical of this plan, and certainly it's not what I would want. What I said yesterday to Arlen, is for the United States military to go in there to move Israel completely out, to take all Israeli forces out of Palestine and to work with the authorities in Palestine to create a secure country there governed by Palestinians. But that just isn't going to happen. Obviously, that's what we should have. And we should really do it, not just the U.S. It should be done through the United Nations, through the auspices of the United Nations, with the goal of completely clearing Israel out, taking Israel out, and securing Gaza for Palestinians. Obviously, that would be the solution and ultimately working towards one state. But there's no way that would happen. It's not going to. It wouldn't happen under Trump rule. It won't happen if the Democrats take power back in 28. That's not on the table. What was on the table was just more bombing, more killing, tens of thousands of people killed each year by Israel, perhaps, and even upping that death count even more. I get her, obviously, the worry that Medea expresses. It's there. But people aren't dead now who would be if it weren't for that ceasefire. So I just think sometimes politics is the art of the possible. And I think there are ways, hopefully, that if the people of Gaza aren't completely eradicated now, then maybe there can be a better future for them. So that's why I don't quite agree with her conclusion, with Medea's conclusion that the UN was wrong to agree to this plan. I just don't know what else they really could have done. 240-242-5646. I did look up now. There was a statement in there that Trump would be in charge of that board of peace. That's really bad. We don't want him in charge. Of course not. And I had been somewhat heartened by the fact that Turkey had been bandied about as one of the stabilization force members, right? The International Stabilization Force, that I think is going to include, for sure, Egypt. There will be Palestinians as part of that, Saudi Arabia. It would have been really good to have Turkey there because Turkey is, as Medea has said, much more critical of Israel, and rightly so. I mean, their president, Erdogan, is an autocrat. He's a tyrant. He worked, I guess, with Saudi Arabia to kill Khashoggi. The media obviously is not free in any way in Turkey, but still, Turkey would serve as somewhat of a counterbalance to Israel. So I'm disappointed that there won't be some Turkish forces there. They are a member of NATO, which would have also been of value to have them there. But all in all, I think this was the better decision to approve the plan. All right, we've got Ari on the line. Ari, do you agree with me or do you agree with Medea on this issue?
I agree with both of you.
Okay.
The point that you said about Israel getting out, that would be great. Of course, it's idealistic at this point. And the other one about Benjamin, of course, media covered a lot of good stuff, which I think, in my mind, boils down to really a total disrespect for the Palestinian people. Like, they have no say in this whole matter. We're just going to take care of this for you kids, and you just watch us. You're going to get peace. You're not going to get as much killing, but you just kind of stay there and let us big boys and girls do what we have to do for you. We're doing you a favor, after all. So this is the sad part. And the other one is the United Nations. We're not expecting a lot from the Arab nations or the Muslim nations, like Turkey, for example. They were trying to, but anyway, it's a lot of show, I think, on Turkey's part, I think, and other countries. But the other thing is, United Nations, most of the world already accepts Palestine as a state. We keep forgetting to say that, and keeping it in mind that most of the world, most of the nations within the United Nations accept Palestine as a state. So when I think of that, and I'm looking at it from a bird's eye view, I'm not a lawyer and United Nations expert. What is the holdup? There's something really mysterious here, where Israel is holding the cards. United States we back them up, and we're always at this stalemate as far as not even a stalemate. It's always defeatism for the Palestine people, for the Palestinians. That's really all. So you're right, what you said, Hal, about Israel. Get the hell out of there. We'll let the Palestinian people and others who want to help them, United Nations, maybe some Arab states, and get out and let them know they're just going to be in the way. And I think Israel is looking for another opportunity for this to fail, so they can start all over again. Say, see, we told you this is not going to work. We're just going to start bombing again. So they're looking for another, which is very typical when you look back. Israel is always looking for a failure. They set up these things that look kind of rosy somewhat, and then they fail, and there they go again. They got more than half of Gaza already, so this yellow line is a joke. So you can see where this is going. That's pretty much all I had. Thank you, Hal. That's all.
All right. Thank you so much. That's Ari calling in. Really appreciate his taking the time to share his views. And just want to share a little bit more from the BBC description, which I think is quite good. In other words, quite comprehensive, really gives you good flavor of what the deal is. Medea made the point that it's very worrisome. They are going to disarm the resistance, strip it of neutrality, and turn it into a party of the conflict in favor of the occupation, which means, I guess, to actually help the international force. What I think is very, very worrisome is that the international stabilizing force it says will work with Israel and Egypt along with the newly trained and vetted Palestinian police force. No, Israel shouldn't really have any say, obviously, and Israel should be funding all of this, which they're not. There's much, much, much that's wrong with this, but I don't see it as a complete negative. If there is going to be a Palestinian police force, if Trump is somehow motivated, maybe by that tantalizing prospect of a Nobel Peace Prize, then maybe something positive will come out of this compared to where we are now. So that's where I am, and I certainly get where Medea is coming from, and she knows far more than I do. Israel is totally not to be trusted, but if the killing is stopped or it's greatly, greatly reduced, if you do have some Palestinians with say over their governance, as the plan seems to contemplate, that's better than nothing. And you can see that a Palestinian committee and police force. There's the Board of Peace. Yeah, Trump's the chair of that Board of Peace, which is frankly insane. But Trump isn't going to be president forever. Trump's got a few more years. The way Netanyahu has been, it seems like, prime minister forever. Trump's got a few more years. He is not, at this point, popular even with his caucus, certainly not with the Republicans, certainly not the way he was. It is unlikely, in my view, that they would support some plan for him to remain in power. What the Democrats need to do, and this is what is also a real weakness in terms of hope for, if you have hope for Palestine, what's a weakness? What's a reason not to have hope? Well, I think the positive you take from this is if you can join with folks like Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and campaign as Democrats for a real permanent solution, which means self-determination for the Palestinian people, then I think the Democrats could take power back next year, at least in one house. Maybe they will anyway, but if they're not committed to Palestine, it doesn't matter, right? If they're committed to Zionism, if they're committed to Israeli control in the region, to an expansion of Israel rather than contracting Israel, reducing its sphere of influence completely from Gaza and from the West Bank. If there's no commitment to that, then in the end, as Ari says, and certainly as Medea says, it's hopeless. It's hopeless for the Palestinian people. It's hopeless for justice. But maybe the Democratic Party will recognize that Zoran's win, that Plattner's popularity, that any resurgence the Democratic Party can hope for really has to be by rejecting AIPAC. If that happens, then we'll look at this deal and say, well, it's a really, really good thing it was agreed to, because otherwise there'd be a few 10,000 more dead Gazans, maybe 100,000 more dead, maybe 200,000 more dead. And, now we've got Democrats in power, but if they had agreed to the ceasefire, if the ceasefire had gone through a couple of years earlier, 15 months earlier, then a lot of dead people would still be alive. A lot of children would still be alive. A lot of moms and dads would still be alive. So, that's why you do it, because it's a little bit of kicking the can down the road. I totally get that. But the road might become a little less rocky, a little less bumpy if we get some better leaders in this country. Now, well, that's a big, 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 big if. But again, the alternative to this deal strikes me as even more horrific. So I think it was the right deal. Let me see if we can go look at this slide here. And this is a little dated because you heard Medea say that Israel has ruled out Turkey. I don't know that Israel should be allowed to rule out Turkey. Maybe Turkey will still play a role. But you can see the U.S., the Palestinian Authority, and several Arab and Muslim majority nations, including Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey, have called for quick adoption. The hope is that Turkey would be part of this. Saudi Arabia now is working closely with Trump. They've just announced a deal that does offer one some optimism that maybe, if as bad as the Saudi royal family is, maybe if they feel pressure from their the street, the so-called the renowned Arab street, to protect their co-religionists in Gaza and in the West Bank, maybe that will happen. And again, we're seeing fewer dead now. So I just can't see that the right answer was to reject it. Now, Medea says that Russia and China should have exercised the vetoes they possess, but they abstained because the Palestinian Authority, and she mentioned, by the way, that Hamas opposed it and that the Palestinian civil authorities opposed that. According to the BBC, the Palestinian Authority, the PA, and 8 other Arab and Muslim nations did back it, which is why Russia and China didn't veto the plan. They do legitimately have, they have legitimate criticisms, little clarity, not clear if the UN is going to be involved. There's no firm commitment to a two-state solution, but a two-state solution is mentioned. And I think that's a positive, right? I mean, it's a good thing that they say that. Let me see if I can get that exact quote up, because there is a language in there that, political process. Let's just show it. I will repeat it, but it's good to see it too. U.S. and Palestinian Authority, several, the top. The UN Secretary General spokesperson stressed that the resolution needed to translate into concrete and urgently needed steps on the ground and lead to a political process for the achievement of a two-state solution, which is mentioned as a potential, as something potential that could happen if down the road. Not that it will happen, but that it could. We can only hope. We can only hope. Now, I like a one state. I want everyone in that region to be part of the same country, to be equal citizens with equal rights and power. That doesn't, again, that won't start with the United States as it's currently constituted with either party. It just won't happen. So, better, more living people, in my opinion. Better, more living people. And so I'll end this discussion really with why, again, I'm not even cautiously optimistic, but I think it was the right decision by the UN to agree to. You have through today close to 70,000 confirmed Palestinians killed by Israel in Gaza. Close to 70,000 confirmed, right? And the real number, who knows how much higher it is. Close to 70,000 in 2 years, a little over 2 years. I just don't, nobody wants to see that number go, zoom past 100,000, zoom past 200,000. And it absolutely might. For those who say, like Medea, well, there is no ceasefire. It hasn't ended. The killing hasn't ended. That's true. That's correct. Israel has continued to kill Gazans, continues to occupy and make it life ever more challenging for Palestinians in the West Bank. That's all true. But in the past 39 days, you can look at that dateline. That's today from Al Jazeera, November 19th. Ceasefire announced October 10. So you're looking exactly 40 days, October month of 31 days, 40 days. Deadly Israeli attack brings death tolls and ceasefire to 280. So 7 dead a day. Terrible. There's hope that number will start to reduce. In other words, fewer and fewer killed each day by Israel. There's hope. There was no hope before. So, and even if you say, well, under the terms of this deal, there's no hope that the Gazan people will be free, that the Palestinians will be liberated under this deal. Maybe that's true, although there is aspirational language towards towards self-determination in Gaza. But maybe that's true. Maybe you look at the signatories and you look at Trump and you look at Netanyahu and you look at the vagueness of any enforcement and you say, well, there's just really no way that this is going to redound in the end under the current leadership of the countries in power. That's going to redound to freedom for the Palestinian people. That might be true, but where there's life, there's hope. And so hopefully things will change, and they'll change here. Leadership will change here. And I have no optimism leadership will change in Israel. Maybe it only seems to get worse and worse. But if it changes here, if the Democratic Party realizes politically they're better off challenging Israel, taking on the Israeli lobby rather than bending a knee to it, if that happens, then yeah, maybe things will get better. Obviously, Israel claiming they're totally against it. I do think these two warmongers, these war criminals, Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, I think, is the head of the army, and Smotrich, the finance minister, they're both hard right. They're saying no Palestinian state. They hate the fact that there's even language that mentions that. They're just full-on genociders. Netanyahu, slightly more pragmatic, going along with Smotrich and Ben-Gvir to maintain power, fearful he is of any kind of prosecution for his financial shenanigans, for his corrupt activities. So to stay in power, giving them what they want. We'll see if, and having zero conviction, zero concern for the people that he's killing, that his armies are killing. We'll see whether somehow there could be slightly better leadership in Israel. Again, the real hope, the real optimism has to be that things change in the United States, where that could happen. And you'll hear, I think this is the right response to Israel. This is not obviously Trump's response, which is to give Israel a lot of what it wants, to protect Israel, to protect its war criminals, to protect American war criminals, including himself. Apparently, the Biden team, led by Anthony Blinken, feared it could be prosecuted. There were some memos that Biden's defense team feared they could be put in the dock for war crimes because of their full-on support for Israel's genocide, because they green-lighted ongoing shipments of arms to Israel despite the Leahy law, which says no. If you deny humanitarian aid, you don't get American military support. And they said, no, we're going to go ahead. There's no denying. There's no denial of aid. And there was, of course there was. So they're possibly at risk. We know that. Trump protecting everyone, doing his best to. Maybe in the end there will be justice, and these war criminals, these murderers will see the inside of a jail. We'll see. Here's why we maybe should be a little bit optimistic that could happen.
Now, you and Mayor Eric Adams, your guys' team, have met to discuss the transition. You two haven't met yet. When do you plan to meet?
He's currently abroad. When he returns, we'll be having that meeting.
Yeah, so he is in Israel. He's leaving for Israel today.
So think about that, right? The current mayor of New York. He's got another month or so. I think Mamdani gets sworn in like January 2nd or 3rd, something like that. Current mayor, totally disgraced, out of power. Well, will be out of power. Doesn't appear to be exercising any power in his city, doing nothing to make life better for the constituents. He's in Israel, which I guess he views as the, 5th, 6th borough? Maybe that was something Hakeem Jeffrey said. One of them said that Israel was the New York 6th borough. He lost. He lost so badly he had to drop out. The guy he dropped out and endorsed, an unabashed supporter of Israel, one of his clients, Netanyahu. That's Andrew Cuomo. Andrew Cuomo's law firm or law practice included running interference for Netanyahu, providing a game plan for Netanyahu to avoid prosecution for his war crimes, for his genocide. That's Andrew Cuomo, also a loser. If you're a Democrat and you don't care, and I get it, these political animals are totally, in so many cases, soulless, in so many cases, sociopathic. If your concern is winning, look what won. A message of change, a message of humanity, a message that murderers sometimes will face justice. That's what won. So I get it, generic Dem. You really don't care about human beings. You just care about getting elected. If you want to get elected, embrace Mamdaniism. Reject Israel. Reject the corporate elite. Reject, frankly, the New York Times, for that matter.
He's sort of needling you a little bit in these final days and certain policy moves that he's been making. But he also invited the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to come to New York City on your first day when you're being sworn in. You've said in the past that you want to...
think about that too. Why would Adams do that? Like, what is it? I guess he's so, and we see this with Trump, so petty, so resentful. Oh my God, I was mayor of New York. I get to stay mayor as long as I want. And if I can't be mayor, well, then at least somebody that I hand pick or that I endorse who shares my corrupt value system should be mayor, like Andrew Cuomo. God forbid the next mayor be somebody who might do some things to help the people of my city. Make life a little bit easier for them, make life a little more affordable for them, improve the services that are available to them. God forbid that should happen, because that will make me look really, really bad. But if you get someone like a Cuomo, where it's just more of the same, oh, yeah, Adams, Cuomo, they're all the same. But what happens when you get a Mamdani and he does, in fact, get some of those free buses and does, in fact, impose more of a rent freeze, but not just rent, because, I'm not a huge fan of the rent freeze. I'm kind of a free in some ways. I do believe in markets, and I do believe in letting the market determine price to a significant degree. Now, of course, when it comes to housing, everyone needs to have a house. So that's our responsibility as a government. I like when Mamdani's saying we're going to build more houses, more middle-class income, more middle-income housing, more working-class income housing. I think that's very, very important. Mamdani implements his policies. They really do work. It sure will make people like Eric Adams, Mike Bloomberg, Rudy Giuliani look really bad. And that's what they don't want. They don't want the verdict of history to be thumbs down on their terms in office.
Arrest Netanyahu for alleged war crimes. Do you plan to arrest Netanyahu on your first day?
I love the way she asks the question. It is kind of, now he handles it beautifully, right? Like, I would be probably getting a little irritated by her framing of it. Like, you said you want, I think she said, you said you want to arrest Netanyahu. I don't think he ever said he want, he just said he would. He said, hey, the guy comes, he's a war criminal, or he's been charged with war crimes. If he comes to New York and he starts, walking around the streets and we see him, there is a warrant, there is an indictment in the world court. it is legally binding in America. We have the power to, I don't know if it's legally binding, but we have the power to enforce it. It may not be legally binding, but we have the power to enforce that, and we will. Let's see if we can play that one more time.
He's sort of needling you a little bit in these final days and certain policy moves that he's been making. But he also invited the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to come to New York City on your first day when you're being sworn in. You've said in the past that you want to arrest Netanyahu for alleged war crimes. Do you plan to arrest Netanyahu on your first day?
So my plan on my first day is to become sworn in as the next mayor of New York City and start to deliver on an affordability agenda. I've said time and again, this is a city of international law, a city that believes in those values, and one that should honor the warrants that have been issued by the International Criminal Court, be it for Vladimir Putin or Benjamin Netanyahu. And I've also said that unlike Donald Trump, I'm not going to create my own set of laws. And what that means is exhausting every single legal option. Now, the mayor is free to travel where he would like to spend the final weeks and months of his administration, and he's free to speak to whomever he would like to. My focus is on actually delivering for New Yorkers. That's what I'm going to be doing.
All right. I thought he handled that really well. He didn't say, oh, yeah, we're going to lock that guy up. But he was also clear, hey, there is an indictment. It's valid. It's legit. We're going to enforce it. So I give Mamdani all manner of props. And I'm glad he isn't pulling back from that. Now, will he have an opportunity? Almost certainly not, because I would be shocked if Netanyahu comes to New York. I think what Adam's hope is that Netanyahu comes and that Trump sends out a federal security detail to protect Netanyahu. And if that happened, I don't know what happens at that point. I don't know whether, there would be huge federalism questions. It would be very, very interesting. I doubt that, because as a dignitary, as a foreign head of state, I suppose Trump could send some kind of security detail there to protect Netanyahu. My guess is they're just going to lay low right now. Trump's not the most popular president at this point. He knows this is an issue that really riles up his base. His base does not. Many of them, younger ones, especially young MAGA, totally doesn't support Netanyahu. And in fact, young MAGA, according to Nick Fuentes, is over because of Trump. So I don't think they're going to be looking to make a fight of this. 240-242-5646. 242-5646. Yeah, Ari's saying, hate to disagree with Mamdani, but it's Zelensky. Yeah, Zelensky's a big problem. Putin's a big, I think they're both. Putin's really, I had a little tiny bit of sympathy for Putin at the very beginning of the Ukraine war. I thought we provoked him to a significant degree. I understood his concerns about expanding Ukraine, expanding NATO. Of course, he's an autocrat. Of course, he's killed people, poisoned people, is a bad guy. But, look, his fear, I think, of Western encroachment was legit. But he has gone way, way since Trump took office. He has failed to work with Trump to try to negotiate some sort of peace deal. He has committed, I think, reasonable, by legit accounts. It's not propaganda. He is waging a very, very bloody war on Ukraine, and I don't think that's something we can blame just on Zelensky. 240-242-5646. 240-242-5646. Mamdani saying, you got a war criminal, comes to New York, or a guy who's charged with war crimes, we should arrest him. Now, that's the right response. That's how Democrats can win. You take a popular position, especially among your base, right? Very, very, very few Democrats now support Israel. So you take a popular position, especially among your base, and it's a strong position. It's a clear position. It's easy to understand. You say you're going to do it. What's the wrong way to go about this? What doesn't give me hope for the future of Gaza or this country? The left caving completely to their corrupt leadership yet again. So from Axios yesterday or 2 days ago, AOC says Jeffrey's primary challenge is not a good idea. Now, why not? I'm going to play now. There's a lot to this. Well, there's some to it, but there's a good amount to it. I thought Blakely, I Am Blakely, they do a like these sort of more, I won't say humorous, but brief commentary they do. It's an individual, it's one person, but their pronouns are they, them. So I'm respecting that. I thought Blakely does a tremendous job here, and they say exactly what I believe. Kind of sums it up, but better than I could. I think in a more entertaining way. So let's listen to Blakely. Oh, is that the wrong? Okay, I got the wrong clip in there. Let's see if we can get the right one for you. Yeah, there were two. So we'll get that for you in just a sec. I do apologize. We'll go back to this tally, you know, to see the behind the scenes stuff, and we'll put in a new video for you, the longer form one. I don't quite, I had corrected that problem, but obviously not the case. But I want to play because I thought it was very, very strong how she did that. And yeah, I don't want you to miss it because I thought she did. Blakely, that is.
See, and this right here is why I did
they
not
do
fuck
a really
with
good
her.
job. Let's see. I said that I misgendered.
Happened
Didn't mean to
recently
misgender.
when everybody else was fawning
Okay,
all
let's
over
go.
it, because it's very easy to say fight the oligarchy. See, and this right
Stand
here
up to
is
the
why I did
establishment
not fuck
when
with
it's
her
vague
and Bernie
and
Sanders
faceless.
fight the oligarchy tour that happened recently when everybody else was fawning all over it, because it's very easy to say fight the oligarchy, stand up to the establishment when it's vague and faceless and nameless. But then when somebody takes your advice and says, you know, I'm gonna primary the guy who is completely funded and controlled by Wall Street and AIPAC, you go, oh, did I say fight the oligarchy? I didn't mean ours. Similar to what Bernie said when he was asked about Chuck Schumer's disastrous handling of the government shutdown. He's like, well, I'm not going to call for him to step down, but make sure you stand up to the...
Oh, let's keep going. Oh, we'll start from the beginning. It's okay. I think it's good to start from the beginning because I had a little bit of trouble getting this up for you, but I think Blakely really, really nails it. So let's listen to them.
This right here is why I did not fuck with her and Bernie Sanders fight the oligarchy tour that happened recently when everybody else was fawning all over it. Because it's very easy to say, fight the oligarchy, stand up to the establishment when it's vague and faceless and nameless. But then when somebody takes your advice and says, you know, I'm going to primary the guy who is completely funded and controlled by Wall Street and AIPAC, you go, oh, did I say fight the oligarchy? I didn't mean ours. Similar to what Bernie said when he was asked about Chuck Schumer's disastrous handling of the government shutdown. He's like, well, I'm not going to call for him to step down, but make sure you stand up to the establishment. Okay, so you guys want to tell people to stand up to the establishment, but then when they do in your own party, you're like, what? You didn't mean like that. Which is particularly galling because we all know that AOC has her seat because she challenged an incumbent in leadership. And remember, this is the same AOC that tried to gaslight all of us and tell us that Joe Biden was the best person to run for re-election and that he was fine. This is just the newest example of why I don't trust her. This shit was the nail in the coffin for trust. She and Bernie are hypocrites, but I already dealt with Bernie in the other video. She is a hypocrite because not only, as I said, did she get her seat in the first place by challenging an incumbent, but what I also need everybody to understand is that it's in moments like this that you realize how unserious they are about change. How all that, oh, stop oligarchy tour is bullshit and they don't mean it. Because when push comes to shove and somebody actually says, you know what, Hakeem Jeffries is really fucking corrupt, we should primary him, she swoops in to go, I don't think it's the right time. The same bullshit that they try to manipulate you with every single fucking election, whether it's the midterms or the general election. They constantly tell you, oh, it's not the right time, it's not the right time. No, it's always the right time to oust an AIPAC shill. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. It's always the right time to oust an AIPAC shill. And again, this guy isn't just an AIPAC shill. He's a corrupt Wall Street shill. I mean, he's a shill for big money, for warmongers. That's who Hakeem Jeffries is. And the idea, you know, that AOC, who did challenge a guy who wasn't even as corrupt as Hakeem Jeffries, a leader in the Democratic Party, she's telling people, oh, now's not the right time, is absolutely outrageous. Why people are so angry. So many are so angry at the Democratic Party. But I'll tell you, it's so frustrating too, because so many of you just refuse to break with them. No matter what, no matter how bad Democrats are, you won't break with them. And I don't know what to do with that. I don't know where to go. There you go. All-time top donor, Hakeem Jeffries. But according to according to AOC, now's not the right time. Look, I got to give Ian Blakely a little bit of criticism because there were so many F-bombs and S-bombs, but I don't mind when they do it quite as much as when Kulinski, because with Kulinski, it really feels fake to me. It really feels like he's trying to be down with you with, oh yeah, look at me, I can really curse with the best of them. I don't really feel like that with Blakely as much, so I'll give them a little bit of slack. It's outrageous that AOC won't support, because there is a primary challenge. There is a primary challenge to this shill, to this corporate shill, to this warmonger. There is one. And let's look at that guy. His name is Chi Ose. I believe it's pronounced Chi, C-H-I Ose, O-S-S-E. Let's look at Chi Ose, because maybe he's not that good. Maybe the better argument for AOC isn't that it's not the right time to primary Jeffries. It's just that this guy isn't that good. I mean, just because you're primarying Jeffries doesn't mean you're good. Maybe you're even worse than Jeffries. Maybe it's somebody who is furious that Jeffries had the temerity to, in the last week of the campaign, basically give a half-hearted, feeble endorsement of Mamdani. Maybe that was the problem. So let's look at Chi Ose. This is from the New York Post right after October 7. Maybe just it's going to tell us that Chi Ose is, he's from Brooklyn. He lives in Brooklyn. His district is Brooklyn. Maybe he's close to the Orthodox community there. Maybe he's close to the very pro-Israel community there, that he's going to, insist that Israel has every right to defend itself, even if that means going into Gaza and going door to door. So maybe that's the argument that AOC should have made, which is, well, I would like to primary Hakeem Jeffries, but I don't want somebody who's even worse. So what does the New York Post headline? In their own words, 5 city council members who blame Israel. Oh, wow. So maybe this guy isn't so bad after all. It looks like he is going to blame Israel, which is exactly where the blame for October 7th lies, obviously, with Israel. What did he say? What did the man whom AOC doesn't think deserves her support in a primary challenge to Hakeem Jeffries, what exactly did that guy say? Because remember, it's not the right time. So what he must, I mean, I can't believe this guy is really, truly outspoken against Israel. But look at this. What did he say? Israeli, according to the New York Post, Israeli military occupation of the West Bank and its dominion over the Gaza Strip, now 56 years old, are the primary root of the violence. Wait, so he's blaming Israel. The Palestinian movement for national liberation is legit. It is. It's a movement Eisenborn endorsed. So what possible reason? Obviously, his view is a lot closer to AOC. She calls Israel a genocide state. She's called it that under tremendous pressure, but she finally did. My sense is, from what her public pronouncements are, Chi Ose is a lot closer to AOC and his views on Israel than Hakeem Jeffries. So I don't get it. Why is this not the time to primary Jeffries? Well, I mean, Israel's not the only issue. Maybe there's something else going on. Maybe there's some other areas where Ose is not very progressive, like the way AOC presents herself. Now, she's from the DSA, right? That's where she came out of. Well, maybe he comes from some more conservative group. Let's look at that. Here's what Ose says in Axios. The Democratic Party's leadership, meaning Jeffries, is not only failing to effectively fight back against Trump, they have also failed to deliver a vision that we can all believe in. I think that's pretty much what AOC said in her oligarchy tours. We've got a vision. We're going to take our country back from the oligarchs. So Ose is saying exactly what AOC says she believes. Says Ose, who recently joined the DSA. So wait, he's in the same group as she is, and by the way, is Mamdani, coming out of the same organization. She still won't support him? Wow. That's so wrong. That's so unacceptable. It just demonstrates yet again she's a phony. She's fake OC, right? Fake AOC. She's fake OC. She's a hypocrite. She's not fighting for you. And she doesn't even have the argument that she's in a rough district. If she came out in favor of OC, maybe she could lose. It's not going to happen. Hakeem Jeffries is not popular at all. AOC's constituents would welcome her attack on Jeffries, her support for a challenger. They would, but she won't do it because she respects leadership. She respects seniority. Remember, she even said, hey, if you give me the ranking Democrat position on the House Oversight Committee, I promise I won't support primary challenges to sitting Democrats. She said, if there was an if you support me, Democrats, to be the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee, this was early this year. If you support me for that position, then I will not call for primaries of sitting Democrats. But guess what? They did support her. They supported a dead man and said, Gerald Connolly. And yet, even though they rejected her deal, her proposed deal, she's still abiding by it. How could she possibly be a legit leader for this party? And this is what frustrates me more than anything else. So this is posted by a guy I know on FB on Facebook who is a real opponent of Israel, who's really pro-Palestine, at least as far as I know. They always have presented themselves as pro-Palestine. Why the hell would you be excited to vote for somebody who won't even support a primary challenger, who is in fact pro-Palestine, who does in fact get that Israel is the problem in the Middle East? She won't support that candidate. AOC won't support that candidate. And yet you'd be excited to vote for her? Now, look, I don't put these people on. I could ask them to come on the show, but at some point, I'm just tired of arguing with people and putting them on the spot. I mean, if I had that individual on the program, maybe they would come on, maybe not. I don't know. I know who they are. They might be willing to join me. I'm going to juxtapose that post. So you'd be excited to vote for AOC, right? You'd be excited to, and then juxtapose it with AOC saying now's not the right time to primary the guy who's led the Democrats into a terrible spot, a minority leader who's been an awful leader, an all-time top AIPAC donor. Why would you be excited? Why would you? I mean, I could ask that question, but I'm sort of past all that. I'm like, if you're a Democrat, if you're a loyal Democrat, explain this. And I've had them on. They can't. I see this over and over. And part of it is, well, I think I might have a future in the Democratic Party. Maybe I'd have a future in the Democratic Party. Look at OSE, okay? AOC, by the way, endorsed Mamdani, as she should have. I mean, it would have. She had to, really. Like, let's be honest. She hadn't endorsed Mamdani. She would have really. That's the end of her credibility as a progressive leader. She hadn't endorsed him. She had to. She had to. And so did, by the way, Chiose. An ally, indeed, and a left-wing voice. Isn't that exactly who you'd want to be the new leader in that, the new representative of that district? Who wouldn't be the new leader in the House? But you'd be getting two birds with one stone if you can get OSE elected. You're getting rid of this lousy minority leader, this corrupt minority leader, and you're replacing with a true left voice. How could you not support that? Now, I want to say one other thing that's really, really problematic. OSE is an ally of Mamdani, right? Here we go. And he put his money, he put his Instagram where his mouth is. Here we go. Guy has a big social media presence. He calls Mamdani authentic. He's the real deal, according to Chiose, who was a New York City councilman. He's got some influence. He's got some pull. What you cannot replicate is authenticity. So Osei is saying Mamdani's authentic, an authentic leader. He's not an authentic progressive. So at least if AOC won't support him, well, let's hope Mamdani will. And this is what really threw me. Like, I don't care about it. I mean, I care about AOC. I wanted her to endorse Osei. I want Osei to win. I think if she endorsed Osei, he would have a better chance to win. She has a lot of influence in New York City. I don't think it's deserved. I don't think she's somebody who has demonstrated the kind of leadership qualities, the kind of honesty, integrity, progressivism that I want in a political leader. But whether I like her or not, she is indeed a leader in New York City in the progressive movement. She goes out there, stands next to Chiosei, goes down into Hakeem Jeffries' district and says, "You got to vote for Osei. We need to get rid of this Jeffries guy." That could make a big, big difference. And she won't do it. She won't do it. But you know who else won't do it? The mayor-elect. Now, I mean, this is just awful. This is, for those of you who have been skeptical of Mamdani, for the Kshama Swans of the world, who are really skeptical of Zoran, for the Fiorella Isabel, who has totally bashed Mamdani, the Revolutionary Blackout Network guys who can't stand Mamdani. Look at this. Osei endorsed him. Osei called him authentic. Osei is a genuine progressive leader in the New York City Council. Osei has called out Israel. Mamdani has publicly discouraged Osei. Here's what he says. "I appreciate how hard he's worked for the tenants," which, of course, is a signature issue. "But there are many ways right here in New York City," says Zoran, "to both deliver on affordability agenda and take on the authoritarian administration in the White House." Of course that's true. Of course Osei in New York City can do a lot of good. No argument, no doubt. That doesn't mean you don't support him to run for Congress. You don't support him to get rid of a really bad apple, meaning Jeffries. Replacing him with someone better. Replacing him with someone who's going to vote against Israel. Replacing him with someone who's going to vote for Medicare for all. Replace him with someone who's going to support more financial aid for New York City from Congress. I mean, this is so outrageous that Mamdani isn't endorsing Osei. Now, here's my theory. Now, I put this in there. You can see it. I said, disgraceful. I'm guessing that Mamdani agreed not to support a challenge to Jeffries in return for Hakeem's endorsement. Remember, Hakeem issued that half-hearted endorsement? And maybe Mamdani had reason. Like, Mamdani just barely got over that 50% threshold. It wasn't like he got to 60, 70, 80%. You say, wow, he is such a big, he didn't need Jeffries to win. And he probably didn't need him to win, but Jeffries may have helped him get to that 50% plus one, which is relevant, which does give him a bit of a mandate. So I sort of understand where Mamdani might have said to Hakeem, if Hakeem says to him, Jeffries says to him, well, you know, I'm a little bit worried about a primary challenge. One of the reasons I don't want to endorse you is because what if you win and then you kneecap me, right? I don't have to worry about that. Cuomo would never do that. Cuomo and I get along. We see things in the world the same way. You know, we're when the big fish are eating the little fish, we're right there helping the big fish we're helping scoop the little fish into the big fish's mouth. That's who Andrew Cuomo is. That's who I am. Hakeem Jeffries, that's who I am. But you're not quite on that same page there, Zoran. And if I endorse you, as I'm under tremendous pressure to do because you're the Democrat, if I endorse you, what happens when you pull the rug out from under me and you endorse this guy Osei who's probably going to run against me? And Mamdani probably says, oh, don't worry about it. Hey, once I'm in the club, man, we're on the door. I'll close the door behind me. I get why he said it. I truly do. I understand that. Maybe it was the right political calculus in that moment, but now it's the wrong thing to do. And this is what you do in response. You come clean. You go to the media and say, I really wanted Hakeem's endorsement. I thought it would matter, and I think it probably helped a little bit. I appreciate that he endorsed me. He did the right thing. That's something that his constituents should take into account when they're considering the challenge to Hakeem from Chiosei. But I'm not going to support Hakeem Jeffries. He's a terrible Congress member. He's a terrible leader. He's soulless. He's corrupt. He's a defender of Israel. He's the last person we should have as a leader in Congress. I want him out. And yeah, you know what? I'm breaking my promise. Sorry. I'm breaking my promise. I promised Jeffries. I did. I said, yeah, you endorse me. I won't support a primary challenger. But you know what? I shouldn't have made that. Well, I should have made it at the time because I wanted to win. Now I'm the mayor. And I want Hakeem Jeffries out. And I think he would be totally within his rights to do that. Totally justified. I would love it if he did that. Because I believe that's the reason he's not. The reason Mamdani's not endorsing Osei is because the deal with Jeffries was, if you endorse me, or if I endorse you, you have to promise me you won't back a primary challenger. And apparently, Zoran said, yeah. Well, break your promise. Your duty is to the people of the city. Your duty is to do the right thing. And the right thing for the people of the city is to back someone to challenge Jeffries. All right, 240-242-5646. Just to kind of put a bow on everything here. Look, none of this is to tell you that Donald Trump isn't awful. He's awful. The deal that he jammed through the UN is a bad deal for the Palestinian people. It's only compared to genocide, ongoing bloodshed. That means it might not be worth voting against. Donald Trump is a bad, bad guy. According to, Track APAC, I think, and I'm going to try to explode that up, but they put several $100 million in there from Track APAC because of all the money he got from Miriam Adelson, $230 million. He's a bad guy. I want him out. He's crude. He's rude. He's not particularly intelligent. He's nasty. He's got to go. And you can see those two Republicans at the bottom, Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, no money. They don't take it from AIPAC. So obviously they're the ones you should side with against Trump. And I give grudging credit to another guy that I've been very critical of on this program, repeatedly so. I'm still critical of him. I still don't love him. I still don't even like him. But he kind of sort of says the right thing here. So let's play this for you. This is playing, but manual. I don't want it to play on click. All right, here we go. Yeah, maybe we want it to only play manually. Here we go.
おはようございます。11月18日火曜日です。
Of course, now Natasha Sweet is not speaking. Very, very frustrating. So whatever video I downloaded obviously was it was the English version, but now my software is apparently taken to translating the I get it. Wow, there's always going to be something wrong, and I did test some of those clips, but not that one. Let's see if we can get Jamie Raskin welcoming Marjorie Taylor Greene into the Democratic Party if she wants to go. And it's quite a change because he's generally been really, kind of nasty. I think I played some clip where he was really, making fun of her, shaming her. It was really was ugly is what it was. Let's see if we can get this here. This will be one more time a short from our friends at Washington Examiner. I think it's the same one we showed you, Natasha Sweet. She spells her name Sweatte. I wouldn't have thought that was Sweet, but apparently that's how she knows how she pronounces her name. She pronounces it Sweet. So let's see if we can listen to Natasha Sweet telling us about Jamie Raskin and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's see, here we go. Huh. And now.
Falling out with President Donald Trump.
We are a big tent. We must be a huge, vast tent. I say this is a party that's got room for Marjorie Taylor Greene if she wants to come over.
Greene recently lost Trump's endorsement after pushing to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. The remark came at a Democratic fundraiser in Miami where Raskin faced light boos but drew sympathy from fellow Democrats.
Can you believe that? So he got booed for saying we would welcome somebody who stood up to Trump. Somebody who said, I'm voting for the Epstein files, their release, right? I'm voting against Israel, who put a bill in to Congress that would have defunded the Iron Dome. And Democrats booed her. These are the same people who welcomed Liz Cheney rapturously. What is the matter? What is the matter with them? Now, I want to play this one more time. We could get the beginning of it because
Trump has since labeled her.
I want to see if we can, because here's the thing. Raskin said,
Democratic Congressman
we'll do it from
suggested the wide-open tent of the Democratic Party could even welcome Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene amid her public falling out with President Donald Trump.
We are a big tent. We must be a huge, vast tent. I say this is a party that's got room for Marjorie Taylor Greene if she wants to come over.
So I would answer that with, even if she doesn't want to come over, you support her. You work with her. Party loyalty should not in any way prevent you from crossing the aisle and working with people to do good things, like releasing the Epstein files, like defunding Israel. And at the same time, party loyalty should never cause you not to break ranks with a fellow Democrat who's doing the wrong thing, like a Hakeem Jeffries. So Raskin gets it partly right, but this guy is ultimately a big partisan. He's a big Dem. He never will take on leadership. I give him credit. He spoke relatively positively about Marjorie Taylor Greene, and rightly so. But in the end, he's a Democrat first. He's not a patriot first. He's not a pro-American voter, pro-American first. He's putting party loyalty ahead of what's best for his country. And that is our that is our political system that serves us incredibly badly. And that's why we need to go in a different direction. That's why we need other parties. Because the Republicans and the Democrats have proven beyond peradventure that they put their own political career and their own party ahead of everything else. And we have seen our world fall apart as a direct result. I'll be back tomorrow. Enjoy your day. Thanks so much for being part of Halitics.